Well, good morning. Good morning. It is Friday at about 9-ish in the morning. So, welcome. We're going to have a little bit of pick me up juice. I'm going with Celsius, and I also have some tea. I hope you have your coffee. I hope you're dressed. I hope you're getting your day started. I think this is going to be a fantastic weekend. You can probably hear it in my voice. Been a little bit sick, got all sorts of sinus stuff going on and throat stuff going on, but it's not going to stop me from showing up here. Although it did stop me from showing up on Wednesday. I swear to God, I think I caught the plague sometime early last week, and it really knocked me out for a couple of days. And while I usually try to do things consistently and make sure that I'm still delivering some sort of show to you, I was unable to do anything on Wednesday night. It was an absolute mess. You should have seen me. It was just like woke up on Tuesday, felt like death, did not get out of bed. That lasted through Wednesday. It's been a nightmare. So I'm here now. But the good thing is we're going to still do the show anyway. It's going to be a little bit shorter than usual, probably be about a half an hour. And then I'll get into some of the topics that I have. We'll talk about all sorts of things that have happened this week and then what's coming up in the future. So who's in the chat? We've already got Paul in here. Hey, Paul, what's happening, man? Thank you for joining me. You're always here. I really, really appreciate it. Tell your friends. So, all right. What I wanted to talk about today was a couple of things. We've got some updates. So we'll talk about the new podcast episode that I put out. So last week I did a live and I talked all about my 2026 predictions for the photo industry. Now, there's a lot that's happening, and I just wanted to put on record for myself what I was thinking about in the photography industry. And there were some things that I talked about, like studio photographers closing their studios and the reasons why, because of the economy. I talked about virtual summits and my opinions on how things are being done now versus what can be done in the future. My vision for podcast networks and how I want to bring together some like-minded voices and put them together in a network so that we can possibly start changing things in the photo industry. Vlogging, the return of vlogging and what people are doing to get more authentic content, how AI is really kind of slowing us down instead of making us more efficient. I covered a lot of ground. And while you can watch it here on YouTube, which I'd love you to do, you can also get it as an audio episode if you subscribe to the Generator podcast, which I'd love for you to do. All you have to do is go to your podcast app of choice, whether that's Apple or Spotify or whatnot, find Generator podcast and just click subscribe. I'd really, really appreciate that. Every little download helps. It's already gotten great reaction. I've gotten some comments on it already, some good, some bad, but you know what? This is why I do it. I don't expect that everybody agrees with me. But check it out. That's the newest episode out this week. But one of the things that I did want to talk about as well is consistency. And, you know, I kind of talked about this at 5 seconds ago, wanting to stay consistent. And the reason that we want to stay consistent is the algorithms, the audience, right? Everybody has their own schedule, but if you can start to ingrain in the minds of people that you're going to show up at certain times every week, you're going to release an episode at the same time every week, or you're going to be live every day or every month or every week, whatever it is. By developing a consistent schedule, not only is your audience going to be more receptive to that, but you'll be producing more content. You start to treat it more like a task and a job, and it starts to take on a life of its own. That consistency breeds growth. It's not debatable. You just have to show up all of the time. Now, I've been trying to do my best at this. Admittedly, in the past, my consistency has been up and down and up and down. We've talked about this concept before that I got from Brandon Washington. It wasn't mine, it was from Brandon, that there's an off season in creation and an on season. And what I mean by that is there are times where you've dialed in your workflow and you're producing content consistently. That is your on season. Now, during that time, you're probably learning new things or seeing new things that you want to try. developing new show ideas or developing new concepts for your podcast or for whatever content you're trying to produce. And you want to implement that immediately, but your workflow is working and you might not be able to incorporate all those new things right away. Well, there's two ways that you can go about this. One, you can try one thing every week, but it could possibly throw off the consistency for your audience. It might not land. So, what I do, and it was a great suggestion by Brandon, was to have an off season where you're not creating the same type of content over and over and over every week. Think of it like seasons of a TV show. But in your off season, you're trying your new stuff. You're recording new things. You're trying different technology or different apps to make your stream or your content better, right? And so I've been focusing on this concept, and I'm definitely in an off season right now. You're noticing it, right? I'm not producing as many interview episodes as I have in the past. I typically do 8 or 10 episodes for a season of Generator, and then I go into a little bit of an experimental period where I'm improving. I'm trying to make things better. I'm working on cover art, or I'm working here in Ecamm and making the show a little bit better, adding in new graphics, adding in different elements to try to keep your interest. So we're definitely in an experimental phase right now, and I love doing it this way because it gives me a chance to show you exactly what I'm doing week over week over week and show after show after show. So we had a great conversation about this. Was it last Sunday? So yeah, I was watching Strick on the Ecamm Live channel, and it started with Strick and Kirk Nugent, two gentlemen on the left-hand side of this graphic, and they were discussing the 5 focus areas that they were focusing on in 2026. This is a phenomenal episode, by the way. If you don't want to hear me ramble on, go to the Ecamm Live channel, check out this episode in particular, the 5 key priorities for 2026. So Strick and Kirk go through their priorities. Doc Rock joins the channel, Jeremy Hubble joins the channel, and they start talking about all of these different concepts. One of them being consistency, and how do you create that consistency? How do you draw people in with your content? How do you generate ideas for content so that you can stay consistent? So we were coming up with all of these different hooks that you can use, and it was really a phenomenal episode. Doc went through about 10 of these hooks that he uses all the time. And then we started participating from the audience. And it really created a wonderful environment of creators just sharing ideas. How can we create lead magnets with some of this? How can we create content for the audience that is not only valuable, but then also points them towards other content of ours, right? It's all about growth and focus in 2026. So if you haven't seen this episode, I would encourage you, go to the Ecamm Live channel, check this episode out, especially if you're stuck right now and you're thinking it's a brand new year, I'm not really sure what I want to be creating. Go watch this episode. It's long. It's about 2 hours. You can skim through it, play it at 1.5, times speed, and get through this because it really is some incredible information. This wasn't just dudes hanging out, talking about nothing. They were really giving incredible information. And I just wanted to shout that out because it's not often that I get caught up in a YouTube video that I really, really, really want to promote. But this one really hit home for me. And I was taking notes and writing a whole bunch of stuff down. And it really got me thinking about my own strategy for 2026. So if you have the opportunity, check it out. Subscribe to Ecamm Live. Subscribe to all the guys that are on there, Strick and Kirk Nugent, Jeremy and Doc. And make sure that you're following these guys because they're setting a tone for what live production is really going to be going into this next year. So as we get back, I wanted to talk about that and consistency and show you some place to go, right? It's not just me talking about this. There's a lot of folks talking about this. So next thing, we've got a couple of big news items that happened this week. Now, Imaging USA was happening down in Nashville, so there was a lot of news coming out of there, some good, some bad. And one of the big things coming out of imaging, and this blew everybody's mind, was EvotoGate. Now, Evoto, if you don't know, is an AI assisted tool for retouching for photographers. And if you've been a photographer of any level in the past couple of years, you've probably at least played with Evoto if you do any sort of portraiture or maybe weddings or whatever it is with people in it. You want to retouch those images quickly. And in the past, you either did the retouching yourself, you hired a retoucher, or you'd left things unretouched. Any way is fine, by the way. But Evoto came out with this AI tool a couple of years ago, and it's all slider based, right? Remove blemishes, get rid of wrinkles, get rid of flyaways, smooth out clothing, smooth out backdrops, that sort of thing. And at the time when it first came out, it was somewhat cool and new and easy, but it wasn't there yet. It wasn't producing results that photographers really loved. It was a little bit rough around the edges. More photographers started using it. Evoto learned from it. They're software engineers, right? And they developed this program to a point where the features were coming fast. They were listening to photographers, what was happening, and they kept improving the product, and it became a really cool tool to use, especially if you needed to batch update a lot of photos in a portrait session very, very quickly. I was a user of Evoto. I have no problem with it for what it does. However, what happened this week was that Evoto, who has made all of their money from photographers using this tool, went ahead and released, or it was a beta or a test that wasn't supposed to be released, an AI headshot generator. In short, what they were doing was creating a tool that anybody can upload a picture and then create professional headshots from. What does this do? It immediately undermines their entire user base that is using this tool to edit and retouch headshots or personal branding or weddings or whatever. And the shit hit the fan. So everybody started talking about Evoto. PR is PR, right? They got a lot of attention. The crux of the argument is this. There was a lot of jumping to conclusions. There was a lot of instant lash back at Evoto, backlash towards Evoto, because people assumed that they were taking all of the images that photographers were providing while they were retouching and using that to train this AI headshot model. Now, over the past couple of days, there's been a lot of speculation. There's been a lot of truth. There's been a lot of rumor, a lot of misinformation out there. I'm not even saying I have the entire story, but I'm just telling you what I've seen and what I've collected. So several people started talking to Evoto and complaining about the fact that this tool was out there. Evoto jumped in immediately and started issuing statements and saying, we don't use photographers' data. This was only a beta test. It wasn't supposed to be released, yada, yada, yada. The trust was eroding very quickly because nothing that they were saying really addressed what photographers had thought, which was, we trusted you with our data. Now we do not trust you in the least. So there have been many, many people trying to get to the bottom of what really happened. And the interesting thing about all of this, as I was kind of sitting back and watching it, I was saying, all right, and this comes from years of working in magazines and journalism. I see a story, I'm going to wait 3 to 4 days to let some of the dust settle and find some of the facts before I say anything or make my own opinion. I am not a knee-jerk reaction kind of guy. So I've been watching this evolve. And what I saw come out of F-Stoppers yesterday, about 9 or 10 hours ago, was that Evoto made a statement saying, hey, listen, we never used any of the photographer's data. We used Google's Nano Banana. Okay. Regardless of the fact that whose data they use, whether it was Nano Banana, whether it was photographers' data that we were uploading, fact of the matter remains, they went and created this tool which undermined their massive user base. The interesting part of this is people were complaining that they did it. However, no one was complaining when the tool first came out and people were getting rid of their retouchers. Now it's just photographers realizing, oh, now you're taking something away from me, and there was a backlash. I don't necessarily agree with photographers. I understand the concept. I understand why everybody's upset. And for someone that does headshots and personal branding, yeah, it's one more nail in the coffin of that genre of photography. Because if people can use a tool on their own without hiring a photographer to get good enough images, they're going to do that. It's just that most people don't know about Evoto unless you're in the photo industry. So the thought is, photographers seemed surprised that this was coming down the road, but there's already these AI headshot generators out there. I think they just felt betrayed by Evoto, someone that they trusted that was a partner in their professional service. That's not the case. Evoto's out to make money. They're a software company. So the more users they can have in any way, shape, or form, the better for them, right? They're trying to make money. I have no problem with that. But we have to determine for ourselves, are we adapting, or are we changing our business model, or are we allowing these tools to dictate what happens to us? For me, I don't have a problem with Evoto doing whatever it does, because if I don't agree with the tool, I can stop using it and going back to retouching for myself or outsourcing my retouching. I like doing it all myself. I know how to do it. It's not that hard. It might take me a little bit longer, but that's part of it. It wasn't any different 2 years ago. So I don't understand so much why people have such a visceral reaction to this. If it's not Evoto, it's going to be another company that comes out with this. We are facing that as photographers that do headshots, that do personal branding. We're facing this, whether it's Evoto or another company that's out there. And that was one thing that people were saying, is that Evoto is just going to rebrand this AI tool under another name and put it out there. Who cares, right? The goal is to provide an experience for your client where they can get headshots and personal branding that are authentic to them. And that's one thing that these AI generators aren't going to be able to do. They don't take into account the personality of the person. They don't take into account the conversations and the human connection that goes along with getting a really, really impactful portrait, which is why I don't worry about this, because I don't do high volume retail photography. I make sure that I connect with my clients in a way so that I understand them, they understand me, the style that we're going after, the stories that we want to tell, the personality traits that we want to bring out in people. No AI can replace that. What you're going to get when you use one of these AI headshot tools is very generic backgrounds, or maybe there's an outside, maybe you're posing with your arms crossed or leaning against a wall. It's all going to be very generic, but it's clear that they're AI generated. It's getting better, but you can kind of tell. So what we do as photographers, especially as headshot and personal branding photographers, is provide an experience that AI can never produce. So I think if people are upset that Evoto, betrayed them, I get it. Totally understand that. But take a look in the mirror and understand, what is it that you're doing that is going to be beyond what AI can do? Are you providing a service that is better than what a robot could provide? And if not, then yeah, you're in trouble. But if you are producing something, you are creating an experience, you are creating a service that folks can really resonate with, and they see their authentic self in there, the real kind of unfiltered parts of themselves in the photos, then you've got something that people can cling to. It's just a matter of marketing it different. It's about educating the clients of why you're better than this. I think what it's going to do is start to filter out who are the photographers that relied on this tool primarily to make up for lack of skill versus the ones that have a lot of skill and can get it right in camera with minimal retouching. So EvotoGate was big and it's still going to develop. I think it really was a wake-up call for a lot of photographers that rely on these tools for retouching and providing images to their clients. And now they feel like, wow, now I'm in danger of being replaced. Yep, that's the way this goes. So again, you hear me say this almost weekly, that there is a need to adapt to the tools. You can either rebel against them, you can adapt to them, you can not use them at all. Doesn't matter which way you go. The tools are here and they're not going anywhere. So, I spoke in the last podcast about this anti-AI revolt that I feel is coming. And this is just a part of it. I think this was the wake-up call that we all needed, that these tools are really here and the software companies are not going to stop. So get on board or find something else to do. I really have no problem with this. So Evoto did what it did. I could take it or leave it. I could use it as a tool. Great. I don't need to use it if I don't want to. I'm almost out of credits, so I probably won't buy any more credits with Evoto just because I don't want to support a company that is undermining my friends and, portions of my own business. But I have no problem with the company themselves and what they're doing. I can choose not to use the tool. And that's the emotional regulation that I'm bringing to this. I'm not getting upset about this. I just say, oh, okay, let's do something different. All right. Now, pardon me. The other thing that happened this week was if you're into video and you're on a Mac, right, you might be using Ecamm, you might be using Final Cut Pro. Apple announced the Creator Studio. Now, the Creator Studio is Apple's change in the way that they're marketing all of their tools. So this harkens back to a day, if you used Final Cut Studio back in the day where you got, DVD Studio Pro and Final Cut and Compressor and Motion and I think Logic was included in it. God, it was years ago that I was using Final Cut Studio, but you had all of the programs all wrapped together in one and you paid a fortune for the entire package. Then they started to separate things out. Now you have Final Cut, Motion, and Compressor, and it was a short fee for each one. I think it was like $2.99 for Final Cut, and then $99 for the other tools. And you bought them once, and you got your license, and it just kept updating. Now, of course, Apple, like every other company out there, is going to a subscription-based model where they're saying, kind of like Adobe, we're going to give you all the tools. We're going to give you Pixelmator, Final Cut, Logic, Numbers, Main Stage, Pages, right? All of the apps together for a subscription price of $12.99 a month, which is a phenomenal price for a subscription. But again, it's another subscription. Now you're renting the tools instead of owning them. So good and bad here, right? And I'm still a little bit undecided as to what I'm going to do. I know that I personally don't want another subscription, but they did introduce some new features into Final Cut Pro that are coming, like beat matching, where you can line items up to your music very simply. There are updates in Apple Motion where they're providing magnetic masks in motion, so you can do some things in motion and then just bring them into Final Cut Pro. A lot of new features. I'm not going to go over them here. People like Dylan Bates or Brad West with their Final Cut channels will go much more in depth than I will. I just saw this as a news item. And for those of you that use Final Cut may not be aware that Apple announced this Creator Studio. So I'm still on the fence. I have to dig into it a little bit more. The good part about it too is that there is better cohesion with the iPad environment. So now you can do a lot of these things on the iPad as well, and hopefully it will make content creation easier. I think what we're going to see is a couple of things. People like me who are going to say, well, I don't mind the subscription model at $12.99 a month, but what's to say they're not going to just start increasing that over the next 6 months or the next year or whatnot. And now we're paying infinitely more for a tool or a suite of tools than we did before when we just purchased the license. So I don't know how I feel about it yet. Again, I don't want another subscription. I'm going to see how long I can last on the version that I have now. But the newer features in Creator Studio might be something I want to investigate. So we're going to see how this goes. I'd love to know what you think. Let me know what you think about it. Are you using Final Cut? Are you moving to DaVinci because of this? I see a lot of people jumping ship from Adobe over to DaVinci because Adobe has their subscription model and people are sick of it. I wonder if the same thing is going to happen in the Apple ecosystem as well. So let me know in the comments what you think about Apple Creator Studio. Good, bad, on board, abandoning it. Let me know what you think. So that was the other big news coming out this week. And look who is here. Kelly is here. Good morning, Kelly. Thank you for joining me. And so as I look at the week overall, there's been a lot that's happened. There's been a lot going on, but I wanted to focus today specifically on that consistency, on some of the news that was coming out. But if you're here in the chat, let me know if you have any topics that you want to talk about. Now, looking forward over the next week, there's a lot that's going to be happening before WPPI. So for those photographers that are watching, WPPI is coming up that first week of March. I'm still on the fence about whether or not I'm going, whether it's going to be worth it for me to spend the money to go out to Vegas and interact with the photography community. I'll most likely wind up going, but flights are getting ridiculously expensive and it could just be a cost prohibitive trip. What I get out of WPPI every year is great networking. I get to see my friends. I get to support people that I know that are winning awards, but I don't go to a lot of the classes. There's a handful of instructors that I like to see and just watch how they educate the masses, but I don't go there to learn a lot, mainly because I feel like I've probably overeducated myself and now I just need to apply the stuff that I've learned over the years and just do that and then find where my own weaknesses are and then attend those classes. But it's not the reason I go to WPPI. It's more for the friends and the networking and the camaraderie. And yeah, Kelly was saying that I'm so sad I'll miss it. I talked to several of our peers last night and they aren't attending either. Yeah, I know. And this is the thing is I want to go out there, but what I'm hearing from imaging of this year is that attendance was way down. Now, one of the things that's happening with WPPI is they're bringing in Annie Leibovitz. So if you don't know who Annie Leibovitz is, one of the foremost photographers in the world, and she's doing a keynote, and this is remarkably rare. So a lot of people are going to see Annie in person, and she's doing a meet and greet, book signing, and I'm sure it'd be great. That's going to be like the opening keynote on the Tuesday of the conference. I'd love to see Annie speak, but will it change my life? Probably not. There are several educators that I want to support because they are my friends. There's great networking available. I do want to see a couple of products that I've been following and I want to see them in person because I don't get that sort of stuff up here in Maine. But I'm still on the fence about it. I don't know if I can justify the cost of flying out there. So let me know if you're going to be out at WPPI. Drop it in the comments. Let me know if you're going to be there, and maybe you can sway me to come out and hang out and get some coffees. There's definitely some folks that I'd like to see. And yeah, so that is the WPPI future, kind of where I'm going with that. And then lastly, a couple of the things that I'm working on are continuing to work on the book. I'm continuing to get guests for new episodes of Generator. I'm starting to compile that so we can start doing the live shows more consistently. So if you're out there and you want to be a guest on Generator, all you have to do is let me know. Let me know in the comments, send me a DM. I have a whole application process to go through. It's really easy. And I just want to make sure that it will be an interesting episode, that you can carry a conversation. I'm not saying that you can't, but come on, and we'll talk about whatever it is that you create. All you have to do is DM me. I'll send you the link to the application so I can understand what it is that you do, and we can provide some variety to the audience. But it is going to be happening on Wednesday nights, so it is a live show. I'm not doing the pre-recorded ones anymore. I'm trying not to do the pre-recorded ones anymore. So if you want to be on a live episode of Generator, all you have to do is send me that note. All right. That's really it. I wanted to get on here. You can hear it in my voice. I'm all stuffed up. My head is pounding. I can barely do what I'm doing here. But this has been awesome. I really love doing these Friday morning chats, keeping you up to date. I'd like to wrap a little bit more structure around this, maybe do some news, maybe do some updates, maybe do some highlights of what other creators are doing, and just expose you to other items that are out there that you might not get on your own. So let me know what you want to see. What can I do on these Friday morning chats that would bring you value? Do you want to see what I do behind the scenes? Do you want to see how I put together shows like this? Do you want me to talk about things like interviewing? What is it that you'd love to see? And, oh, hey, Teresa's here. Have a great day, Matt. Thanks for the morning chat. You are very welcome. Kelly is saying that's dedication. Feel better. Thanks. Don't make me laugh, Kelly. Oh, man, I need a cough button. Oh, so you can tell I'm just too congested. So before I take up too much more of your time, please like and subscribe, spread the word about Generator. I'm really trying to do this in a way that I can make this basically my next career. I would really appreciate your help in spreading the word. So let folks know about Generator, send them an episode, find one of my past episodes and forward it to one of your friends. And I'd love to watch these numbers grow. And quite frankly, I'd love to show you exactly what my numbers are. So maybe we'll do that. Maybe I'll write that. Let me write that down somewhere. And I think next week we'll talk about numbers. Cool. We're going to talk about numbers and what it means to run a podcast and what I'm seeing. And I'll show you my consistency of when I'm consistent, what happens with the numbers, and when I'm not consistent, what happens with the numbers. I'm approaching 10,000 downloads, so I'd really like to try to hit that in the next month, but we'll see. All right. Oh, Naya. Before I go, Naya, I really am amazed with everything that you're doing. You are such an inspiration to me, seeing everything that you're doing, seeing all your hard work, all the education that you're doing, all the color that you bring to the world. You are a force of nature. And you may not believe that on a day-to-day basis, but from the outside, from someone who's been doing this a long time, I know you've been doing it a long time too, but watching you grow and grow and grow and do it in a way that's positive for the community is really incredible. And I say this with full on truth and honesty. You are one of my favorite creators out there. I see your energy in everything that you post, and I really value what you do for this community. So your whole trajectory is just going to do nothing but go straight up. So I'm really happy to see what you did at Imaging. It must have been really incredible. I know you were working with the Backdrops Gallery, backdrops, and some of those 3D backdrop sets. It was awesome to watch. So for those of you that don't know, go find Naya Aldrich. I hope I said that right. Aldrich, Naya. She's out there. She's phenomenal photographer and really someone to watch for the future because that's going to be a big name. All right. Oh, look at that. Creative sharing, creative supporting creatives. Well, shit, I'll share right now. Yeah. See, everybody says it. Kelly says you're awesome, Naya. And she really is. And I know you're saying things like, thank you so much. So thankful for you and your kindness and encouragement. You don't need my kindness and encouragement. I appreciate that, but you don't need it because you're doing everything right. So hopefully I will see you at WPPI. I would love to just get a handle on everything that you're doing outside of social media and outside of the education, because after meeting you last year, I was really kind of taken aback at how cool you were. So it's nice to follow you. All right, enough gushing for one show. I want you, look at this. There's so much love for Friday morning. I love it. I got nothing but love for this community, man. I'm so done with the negativity that I see in this world about so much competition, seeing so many people that are just bagging on one photographer versus another. This is why I don't go on threads. This is why I don't go on social media a lot. I don't participate in a lot of these conversations because it's just awful. I see this person putting down this person and then saying to their face that they're great, but behind their backs saying something completely different. I see all of these people that are trying to leg up on the other, copy something and then claim it as their own. It's just so exhausting. And I really don't know what's going to change that other than complete rebellion against doing it, just not participating in it. So if you're out there and you're feeling kind of like I feel, which is it's just a funky, dirty little business, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to take part in that. And it's a big part of why I've stepped back from the world this year, is that it just becomes exhausting. I've got to protect my own energy. I've got to protect how I feel on a day-to-day basis, because what happens in the rest of the industry barely affects me. I either run my business or I don't. I either love what I do or I don't. The fact that a company comes out with a new tool or a new camera, or they, do this against photographers, that's at the macro level. I don't need to participate in any of that. And like Naya says, it's time for us to change the narrative and create our own space. 100%. This is the whole concept of the podcast network that I'd like to put together, which is like-minded people that have the same North Star of good, positive change, good community, not the same old sponsorships and the same type of content and the same approach to the traditional market that we've seen over the years. Let's do this all together, right? Let's start actually saying these things out loud, because the bigger companies that are the same sponsors for everybody only approach things from, like 5 years ago. We're the vanity metrics. Who has the most followers? Let's utilize their user base and get our products out there. We don't have to do that. We can create a community independent of that, and then show those companies what the power of community really looks like. Because as much as we'd like to believe that the imagings and the WPPIs and the Portrait Masters conventions, the thing that brings people in is community, or the feeling of community. But the second you walk into that community, you feel a little bit weird and like there's always someone with their hand in your pocket. Why can't we rise above that feeling and start providing value without the adherence to expecting to get paid for it? I find that the more value that we can provide for free, you have to build that trust with your audience. You have to build that trust with your clients. You have to build your trust with your community. Once you build that trust, they're more likely to maybe listen to who your sponsors are or purchase something from one of your affiliate links. But if all you're doing is selling, nothing good is going to come from that, right? All you're going to do is create this gross industry where, and it's kind of like where we've gotten to, where everybody's so desperate to stay alive that we've forgotten about why we do this for the love of the craft. And believe me, I'm a staunch capitalist. I like making money. I'm not saying that I don't. And I'm not saying that there aren't places for sponsors. Everybody loves sponsors, right? I'd love to be sponsored by companies. But the fact is, we don't need it. It's additional to what we do. We're in this to create value for our clients, for the creative community, right? That's why we're doing this. That's why I show up all the time. I'm trying to talk about these issues so that others can hear that they're not alone in feeling this, right? We all kind of feel similar to this, at least in the circles that I travel in. A lot of people feel like things are a little bit kind of gross these days, that there's always someone selling something and you just kind of, it gets old really, really quickly. All right, let me go back to the comments. Let me see what people are saying. Kelly, yeah, it's a year one, time for change and reinvention. I agree with that 100%. Community, fun, growth, togetherness. Now you see what I'm getting. Find what your true purpose is and share it with good energy and truth, right? These are foundational value systems. Anna, hey, how are you, Anna? Anna Hill, another phenomenal photographer, another member of the Ecamm community who does an unbelievable show. Look her up on YouTube, Anna Hill. And then Kelly, yeah, it's being able to have these conversations that allowed people to sit and think about what they really want out of creativeness instead of what the expectations are. How often do we sit back and say, what is it that I want to bring into the world? A lot of times we're saying what's going to be best on social media, what's going to get the people hooked in, what are going to get me more views? Because if I get more views, then I'll raise my status. If I raise my status, then I can get the sponsors. If I get the sponsors, then I can get the money. And if I get the money, then I just do what you love to do. Put it out there in a real way. Stop hiding behind performative masks and just be you, right? I don't get all my stuff right. I talk a lot, but I also have a lot of vocal tics. I say, and so, but I want to show you all of that. This is all extemporaneous. These are just what I feel. Could it come back and haunt me someday? Probably will. But I don't care about that right now. What I want to do is start changing the narrative. I want to start changing the conversation that we have. It's not about gear. It's not about who's the best award-winning photographer. I haven't met a single client that gives a damn about any of my awards. What they care about is, did they get a great service at a value that they agreed with? Do they want to pay the price for what I provide? And if they don't, that's fine. If they do, that's great. All I want them to do is have a great experience and get value out of what I provide. That's it. If you can say that you do that consistently, and that's your true North Star, why you do what you do, then you should be able to sleep very well at night. Anything else that comes from that, attention or numbers or followers or whatnot, is great. But if that's your intention, is to just get the followers and just get the numbers to raise your status, if that's your only intention, then it feels like that's your only intention. And people might see it and they'll be like, yeah, okay, whatever. But they know you for who you are. And if you come across as real and intentional, they pick up on that as well. For me, I would rather have a smaller circle of people that are highly engaged, that feel good, and we have good debate, and we have good conversation, but there's a sense of community. I'm not expecting everybody agrees with me, but if we can have good, healthy, civil debate, then awesome. I love what I do. I love bringing this stuff to you. But sometimes I feel like I'm on an island out here by myself. And it's through these conversations that I realize I'm not alone and that there are people that want to talk about this stuff. So I'd be curious what are some of the topics that you want to dive into, right? This gives me good information. One of the best things that you can do, oh, forgive me for being disgustingly gross today. One of the best things that you can do when you say, I don't have anything to talk about, I don't know what content to make, go through anybody's YouTube feed or Facebook feed or Instagram feed and look at the questions that people are asking, right? That's what I do when I go through and finish a broadcast and put something up. If there are comments, right? Sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't. But if there are comments and people are asking me questions there, that's giving you your next video to make. That's giving you your next social post to make. Just address their question and put it out there. Because if they have the question, then a lot of other people have the question as well. So you don't need fancy hooks. What you need is to put content out, get questions from that, and then put more content out that addresses those questions. Not only does that really start to engage your audience, but it sets you up as the subject matter expert in whatever it is that you're answering. So this isn't, I used to think this was a really complicated thing to do, and it's not. This morning, I pressed the button and went live, and here we are, right? I prepped a little bit. I had a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, but I just kind of went live. So I'm going to go back to the comments one more time, see what's happening here. Yeah, we we just go through the Groundhog Day of expectations. We don't just sit and remember why we do what we do. We don't talk about it because it's too vulnerable. We need more vulnerability. Amen. That's exactly. I'm playing with soundboard stuff. Isn't that cool? So I agree with that 100%. Is that people forgot about being vulnerable, and you don't have to trauma dump. That's not what I'm saying. It's just opening your kimono a little bit and being like, "Look at what I got." This is what it means to me to be vulnerable. Is to put myself out here, talk to a screen, hope that people are listening, and try to connect in a certain way. I cleaned my office and put my awards away. I was so focused on that not being the end. Yes. So I was out in my garage. So I don't have a lot of storage in my house. Just it's a weird house. So the only storage that I really have is down in my garage. I have a loft where I keep all my boxes and stuff. And I was going through it the other day because I was looking for a cable. Yeah, I was looking for a cable, and I've got boxes and boxes and boxes of cables. So I was looking for a cable, and I came across this cardboard box. I was like, what the hell is this? And I opened it up, and it was from my corporate days, right? So we're talking 15 years ago, of all of these Lucite's. So if you've ever worked for a corporation, like when you finish a big deal or there's a big project that ends, a lot of times they get you these like Lucite plaques. Now, when I was at Cisco Systems, I did a little over 60 mergers and acquisitions. So there were 60 big projects that we did. And I got a Lucite plaque for every single one of them, including the company that I was acquired from. So I found this box and I was like, oh my God, I used to be so proud of these blocks of plastic. And then I realized that it didn't really mean anything. My favorite memories of that time was the team that I was working with, the group that I was in, the fun that we had, not the technology that we brought in. I remember acquiring Linksys. I remember acquiring FlipCam, right? Scientific Atlanta. There were so many companies that I was involved with that is technology that is foundational to what we use today. And none of that matters. All that matters is I still keep in touch with some of the guys that I worked with. And they're some of my dearest friends. So again, it's about community. I think I've just always landed there. It's more about the community than the awards. Everything that you're saying, right? I love this conversation. Yes. So I think, and then there's this last one, already of them, so be you. I didn't realize I was masking and attracting the wrong people. Yeah. So this was big for me as well, is that I realized that I was giving so much of myself to others and not doing for myself. I'm very happy to help anybody, but I realized that I was trying to give to people to hopefully be accepted. And the moment that I let go of that, I just started to feel so much lighter because I don't need anybody's acceptance to feel good about myself, right? I don't need to prove myself to anybody. I'm way too old for that. I'm way past that. And it was only recently that it really started to kick in and feel good. So again, in years past, I would be like, I have to go to WPPI. I have to be there. I have to show up. I have to be seen. I have to, yada, 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 yada. And I don't have to do that anymore. It doesn't change my world if I get seen by the people that have no impact on my life day to day. Is it great to go have a meal with friends and break bread and laugh and have the conversation? Absolutely. There's nothing like being face to face. But I can also have the phone call. I can also do a video chat with people. So again, it all comes down to community. Natalie is right here and she knows. Natalie, thank you for showing up this morning. I really, really appreciate this. All right, requesting more topics like this. Boom, I'm all over it, Naya. If you haven't been here before, just show up Friday mornings. I'm going to try to do this every Friday morning at 9:00, provided I don't have another bout of the plague. I'll be here every Friday morning. And then if anybody wants to be on the podcast, 7:00 Wednesday nights, we do it live. We're not doing it pre-recorded anymore. We're doing it live Wednesday night, 7:00 Eastern. I'll be doing interviews. And if I don't have someone, I'll have a much more structured show where I can do the talking head thing and really go through some other topics in a much more structured way than what I'm doing here, which is just kind of bouncing off the walls because of all the Celsius that I have in my body. All right. That's going to be it. I said I was leaving a half an hour ago, and then I just went on and spouted off like I always do. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me this morning. If you have anything that you want to talk about, specific topics, just drop them in the comments. Send me a private chat. But I appreciate all of you so much for just giving up part of your morning and listening to me. This is the type of conversations that we need to be having over and over and over. And it starts with one person, hoping that's me. But Naya and Kelly and Teresa and everybody else that's out there, thank you for stopping by. Let's start doing this, right? All right, guys, thank you. I will see you on Wednesday night, if not before. Tell your friends about what we're doing here, and maybe we can get this show to be a lot bigger. Start bringing more people into the fold. All right? Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Be safe, and I'll catch you all next week. Bye.